Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here at African Hotel Investment Forum. We are, as Matt said, from Munich Re, and we are actually a reinsurer, so we insure insurers. But we also have the responsibility to develop new risk transfer solutions for new risks and for increasing risks. And today I would like to talk a bit about those increasing risks. And this is epidemic outbreaks. And what you can see here in this chart is the development, what happened in the last 100 of years with epidemic outbreaks. And you can see there is a trend of increasing number of those events. And this is not only an increasing number of events, also the events itself have more severity than before. And this can have an impact on the hospitality industry itself, as you know maybe. Because what can happen, so people are hesitant and don't like to travel to destinations where an ongoing outbreak is happening. And that can lead to a drop of occupancy and finally to a loss in revenues. And you can see here an example from 2003 that was SARS with billions of losses in some spots of the world, in Canada, Hong Kong, Australia and China, just from SARS at that time for the hospitality industry. Another example, MERS in 2014, that started in Saudi Arabia and then developed to South Korea, also with losses in a range of 2.6 billion US dollars. As Matt just said, Ebola, that was first the big event in 2014 with a huge impact for the hospitality industry in Africa, but not only at the area in West Africa where the outbreak actually happened, but also in East Africa, here as an example, Tanzania, with a drop of 50% in advanced bookings. We now have an outbreak, you know it, in DRC. We will see what happened there after that. Zika, another example, just to show you that this is really a global issue. 2016, major losses in South America, but also in Central America, and finally in South US, especially in Florida, with losses up to 9 billion US dollars. So to just give you a feeling what that means, increasing number of those events, that means we have 200 epidemic outbreaks each year in average, and 5 of them are new. So the treatment is not known of this disease and no vaccination is available. So the question actually is not when the next, where the next outbreak will happen, it's actually when. And you may ask, what are the drivers for those developments? And you can see here the top 5. We have population growth, different land use, civil conflicts, and mobility. At least the last one is a positive one, but all those driving factors are more or less a matter of importing and exporting new viruses to a new region. But I would like to highlight a bit now today the most and huge driving factor, that is climate change. And we as Munich Re, we are pretty much expert in that field, because just to let you know, the losses we pay to our clients, so to the insurers, from the majority come from losses of natural catastrophes. So we have a huge department that just analyze those events and data from natural catastrophes. You can see here just a map what happened last years. Everything happened from floods to drought to earthquakes and to droughts and storms. Finally, with losses, insured or not, with 160 billion US dollars. And if we do the same what we did for epidemic outbreak, just see the development of those number of events, you can obviously see there's also a trend increasing number of events year by year. If you just compare last year with 1980, that is now that we have a 4 times higher number of those events than 38, 40 years ago. Just a quick view to confirm that on losses, also a tendency to having more of those peak year with huge losses. As I said, last year 160 billion of losses from natural catastrophes. That was actually a good year. 2 years ago we had 350 billion losses from natural catastrophes. And that is a trend. See, at 2005, that was the first year where we had losses more than $200, and from that time on we actually had 2 years with more than 300 billion, and 1 year was close to that. So don't run away, don't worry, that is the situation that actually happened, but there's also the other side. So what can we do, what can the public sector do against those developments? And here's an example from the public sector. They actually, that is a pretty new example, issued a bond where they combined the risk of natural catastrophes and epidemic outbreaks. So also they recognize the tendency that there's a huge correlation between climate change and epidemic outbreaks. So that is an example for the Maldives to help the government there if such a combination of events happen. So the other question is, what can we do as a private company for the private sector? So for you as the hospitality sector. So we focus and concentrate actually on revenue, on your balance sheet, to protect them and to bring stabilization to that. And if necessary, we also would provide tailor-made solution and also standard solution if necessary. So what does that mean? The base case is just, you know it maybe, you have a business interruption policy that covers actually physical damage. So your hotel is damaged by an earthquake or so. That is not the case here. We just focus, as I said, on the revenue, and the case is there is an event, be it an epidemic outbreak or be it a natural hazard nearby your hotel, and people don't show up, tourists don't show up, you lose your revenues due to drop in occupancy. And this is where we can help with our solutions. We have 2 of them. You can have it in a package or just as a standalone. Imagine this is the example for the epidemic outbreak. If such an event happens and you lose your revenues like this black curve, we just fill this gap of revenue and pay out your actual losses in revenues and profits. We have in combination or just as standalone a even simpler solution for natural catastrophes. There we developed, as we call, a parametric solution. That means we have a one-time payment once such an event happened in your area, and the amount is just depending on the severity of that amount, of that event, and the distance from your hotel to the event. So that is, in the nutshell, an overview what is currently happening when we talk about risks for the hospitality industry, what we can do against it, and what the public sector is currently trying to do. Let me say a final sentence. We cannot stop those events as a private company, but what we can at least do is to protect and stabilize your revenues if those things happen. So thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, I'm around, happy to answer.